Okay, in part one we looked at how to turn a simple motor into a generator. And someone was asking if I could show how it was hooked up or how it was wired. So I thought I would clarify right now that this particular motor only has two leads or two wires, a positive and a negative, and I simply connected them to the head of a flashlight, positive and negative. It was that simple. However, I will be showing a battery bank, wiring, and other schematics, or the basics of, at some point in this video. However, first let's review how we discussed turning it with a water source. And I want to discuss having a backyard pond for many reasons. You can raise your own edible fish, edible plants, edible water plants. You could raise koi, which can be sold for $500 a fish once they get larger. And they're just enjoyable to have. So if you happen to have one and you're going to stay in town, you can still try to get off grid or save a little on your electric bill. And the idea is this: behind the bamboo or whatever you have to hide your stuff, you can have a setup like this. Now they say the most you can do is break even with a wheel, but if you had a series of wheels, you might get a little more than what you put in. If you had them all turning, each one turning a motor generator, of course. And you can also use pulleys to get a faster spin on the motor generator, depending on the power of your water. Just rig it so your Jenny isn't getting all wet, a fair distance from the actual waterways. And in fact, if you had a pulse circuit between the power source and the pump, what it does is pulse the energy. It turns it on and off real fast, and so you're using half the energy, but each pulse is like a surge, so it increases your torque in your motor or your pump. That's my understanding anyway. So you could operate the whole thing on half the power right there, and yet all your water wheels are still turning. You see, you need a waterfall to aerate the pond and circulate the water, but now you can run it for free and maybe even get free energy out of it. Possible over Unity, I've heard reports. In any case, my friend built one, and his koi eat bugs, and he also feeds them, but only half the year because they don't eat in the wintertime if it's cold, and it is up here. They kind of hibernate. So I think he spends like $40 a year in fish food. But after 7 years, you got 20 fish, each of them worth $500, in 7 years. Although there was a blue herring out there eating a couple of them one time, but it can be a business, and you can run it for dirt cheap, if not free. Anyway, let's get into the schematics now. This is the simple scheme of how you'd hook it up. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Or you can freeze frame it and at least see all the parts you will need, no matter how you're turning the generator. It looks more complicated than it is. That yellow thing is just a simple voltmeter. Battery banks could be car batteries, but most people use deep submarine batteries. Some people use forklift batteries. They're made to last a long, long time, years, And you can almost drain them bone dry before you charge them again. Here's a look at some battery bank wiring schemes. This is a battery bank wired in parallel. That maintains the same voltage but increases the amperage. And this is a battery bank wired in series. It maintains amperage but multiplies voltage. So in this case, you'd have 12 volts times 5. You'd have 60 volts. You can learn a lot more about this at a website called otherpower.com. They have all kinds of diagrams and a forum to help you put together all kinds of battery banks and windmills and everything else. Tell them Johnny Cool Pants sent you. In part one, we also discussed the using of heavy weights jacked up to turn a generator, also a heavy-duty coil spring, and even a bicycle. But I have an idea I call the amp surfer, or the Perkins pendulum. I think if it was hooked up to a flywheel, it'd be a lot easier than a bicycle. And okay, maybe you don't have to go that fast, but something the kids could play on too. In any case, you're using your weight, and your weight is doing most of the work. You're just shifting your weight back and forth while you watch TV. I'd put a one-way slip clutch on that flywheel so the rope isn't trying to turn it both ways. Or even have two flywheels up there, one for each side of the surfboard. Anyway, if I'm talking like a mumble bum right now, it's because half the house is still asleep. I do this in the wee hours sometimes. Otherwise, you can hear the parrot in the background during the day. Long story. Hey, if you need an idea illustrated or animated, let me know. We are in that business. And if you like this channel, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you and have a good day.